If you've ever felt like your retro gaming life has been a bit too old feeling, that maybe playing all these dusty old games on dusty nostalgic feeling hardware and controllers doesn't feel as exciting as it should. If that's the case and you're looking to spice things up and make your games feel exciting and dynamic and make yourself look a lot cooler at the same time, then might I recommend taking the next step, if you know what I mean. Oh yeah, this is way better. Hey there, how you doing? I'm TechDweeb, welcome. Thanks for clicking on the video today. This is fun, something a little different from my usual emulation content. We've got a badass arcade stick to play with. This is the X-Arcade 2TV XR. Quite a few X's in there. At least 7 by my count. This is a super cool arcade stand, or arcade thing. It's honestly absolutely badass. When I accepted this to review, I had no idea what I was in for. I figured, oh neat, an arcade stick, why the heck not? I can talk about arcade stuff, but I didn't realize how huge this thing is, how high quality it is, how much it would take to set up, and honestly, I had no idea how much I'd like it, because I do like it. Really freaking a lot, actually. And today I'm gonna show it to you, show you all the cool stuff that it can do, show you how it gets set up, and then play some games on it, because that's what it's for. That and holding your Mountain Dew. Oh yeah, by the way, we're switching to Mountain Dew today because this thing makes me feel young and badass and stuff. This is my 8th Mountain Dew in the last few hours and I'm already feeling super young and cool. I might even go skateboarding later. We'll see. Let's start with the unboxing because this was not a trivial unboxing. Actually, this is probably the most work that I've ever had to do for a product that was sent to me for this channel. This thing comes in 2 huge boxes that my dweeby arms could barely lift. One box for the control deck itself and another for the stand. And it wasn't hard to figure out how to set it up. It's just kind of like a piece of build-it-yourself furniture. And it comes with instructions and all the hardware you need, but it definitely wasn't a trivial task. The whole setup took me about an hour and a half, and I did it while I was sick. I wasn't able to record audio because I lost my voice, and I figured it was a good time to record me setting this thing up, so by the end of this, I was wiped. And there were a few missteps along the way, but generally it went smoothly. You build the base one piece at a time, and you use the Allen keys to screw in the screws. It's generally really easy with a few parts that are super hard because the screws didn't go in easily, or you need to use 2 tools at once, and my weak dweeby fingers couldn't manage the strength to do it quickly. Some parts of this were a slog, not gonna lie. And the instructions were mostly good, but there were some parts that didn't quite make sense. For example, it has you install the glass part with the logo on it, and it matters which way is up, obviously, but they only put the logo on the first diagram. I had to noodle out which way this was supposed to go after that step because if I got it wrong, it would be upside down. And there were a few awkward areas where the screw fell off the Allen key as I was inserting it, and I needed to dig it out with a magnet screwdriver. So generally, yes, it's not complicated, but it could have been easier with a few kind of component swaps and some slightly clearer instructions in some parts. But in the end, I survived. It all went together easily enough. Oh, and even though it has rubber feet and wheels to move it, I still scratched my floor. That was annoying. I should mention that you can also use this without the base. You can just use the main unit on a table, and that works fine, but come on. This whole base setup is so cool. Why wouldn't you just go for the whole shebang? With the joystick unit, we get a nice thick instruction manual. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you about this. Apparently, if you order during this pre-order period, you get a free soundbar. This is a pure white soundbar. It's pretty nice looking and it matches the arcade stick, so that's cool. The actual joystick board comes completely pre-assembled, so there's no need to do anything fancy there. We got our sticks and buttons and the roller ball, good stuff. And then in the box, we also get this fancy looking cable, which turned out to be for attaching the RGB lights on the base. And this thing here is actually for attaching this whole setup to an old console, like an original Xbox or PS2 or PS3. This thing connects to pretty much anything if you use the right adapter. And then we get some of these motion gate things to change the movement shape on the sticks, and a USB-C power adapter, 5V 3A, and a wireless USB-C dongle because this whole setup can be used wirelessly, which is cool. and a bunch of word papers for the accessories, and a sticker. And then the manual told me that there are some sneaky little trap doors underneath. And under there are some alternate handles for the joysticks if you prefer this kind of bat style. I like the ball style personally. And then on the other side, you get a little kind of tool which can be used to tighten the arcade stick mounting on the base. It's really cool that they put this stuff in these little doors so you can always get it and make sure that you don't lose it. The way this goes on the base is this little grabber here. You can pull this back, which opens the catches on the side. And with a little bit of wiggling, it slides right on there. And you can use the handle to raise it and lower it. And then you can use the little tool to tighten it in place for extra support. And the last step is to plug in that sweet RGB goodness. And we're gonna call that done. So here it is in its final form. I have it all set up in my games room. I've shown you guys this room before, but it's been a while, so I'll give you a little tour. This is the room where I play board games. I host Dungeons and Dragons here. And over here is my arcade cabinet that I made. I really should do an update video on this because I've done a whole bunch of stuff to it since making that first video. Let me know in the comments if you'd like a fresh tour of this bad boy. And over here is a gaming desk that some company gave me in exchange for creating an assembly video. So I have that set up over here with an old 720p TV as the monitor, and up top is a Scepter 1080p TV that I got for like 200 Canadian bucks. Amazing TV for the price. I have that all connected through the wall to this PC under my arcade. So that's what I have the X arcade stick plugged into. The cable they give you is nice and long, so I have that plugged into the PC with USB. So the whole setup is really freaking sharp looking. The base is super high quality, really solid. This thing isn't going to be sliding around on you or falling over or anything. This thing would probably survive the apocalypse, it's so solid. Some really nice RGB on there too, which matches the top unit, which will be handy during the apocalypse, I think. I'll show you how this works in a bit. The X Arcade itself is freaking gorgeous. It has a really nice shape to it, a nice like 30-degree tilt on the button board to make it more comfortable to rest your hands there. The plastic is lovely. It's got this like white carbon fiber effect on it, and it not only looks great, but it feels great too. You'll find that you rest your hands on this often while you're gaming on it, or if, like me, you end up putting a wireless mouse and keyboard up top, it feels great as just like a desk surface under your hands. For I/O, around back, we have a USB-C hole for data and a second USB-C hole for power. On the sides, we get a paddle button, which I use as the select button or the coin button. And on the top, we have our sticks, and each stick has 10 buttons, which can function like your ABXY buttons along with the bumpers and triggers. We also get a control panel with a turbo mode for P1 and P2, input mode to change the input style, and an RGB button that can be used to cycle through the RGB modes or change the brightness or disable it. There's also 2 holes up here for your VR controllers, which we'll talk about. I'm pretty familiar with arcade controls. I grew up in arcades. They were young TechDweeb's happy place. Every single birthday party that I had was in an arcade. Right up through high school, the local arcades were my home away from home. I have friends with arcade cabinets and I like playing on those. I built my own arcade cabinet. This one doesn't have the best quality components. It's just kind of cheap Chinese sticks and buttons, but they get the job done for my little DIY project. And I also have the older X arcade stick. This one is a few years old at this point and it served me well. I played on it a ton. So I'm quite familiar with the quality of the inputs on this thing and arcade sticks and buttons in general. I don't always get access to the best of the best, but I know a good quality input when I feel one. And this guy, the X Arcade 2 TV XR, is just amazing. Amazing feeling sticks and button input quality. It's among the best I've ever used. The action on the stick is perfectly smooth with super high quality sounding subtle clicks as the directions register when you explore the range of motion. Perfect amount of travel as well. This feels so familiar to me from spending a lifetime in arcades. I guess one minor gripe would be the feel of the actual plastic on the ball. Maybe that feels a little cheap, but that's a very minor gripe. The buttons have a super satisfying springiness to them and they sound amazing. Oh my gosh, the sound of these buttons clacking away is like the soundtrack to my happy place. And these extra controls on the top are great. They are touch controls, which I usually don't like, but these work fine and I don't have any issues actually getting them to do what I need them to do. And obviously the fact that they are RGB and match the stand is pretty neat. So there's a lot of ways that you can actually use this thing. Apart from being natively supported on any console with the adapter, you get 3 input modes. You can switch between keyboard mode, D input mode, and X input mode. I just set this to X input immediately, and it was detected as 2 Xbox controllers, and the input inputs are registered as Xbox inputs. You can even switch the stick mode from D-pad to analog stick input. There's also some Xarcade Windows software that you can install that'll let you set any button on the Xarcade to anything you want, but honestly, the X input mode works amazing for anything I'd want to do. It really is plug and play. I'm running my emulation drive RetroBat build on this PC, by the way. I made a video about how I made this setup. Check that out if you want to learn how to get this set up for yourself. It's crazy easy to set up, and the stick was detected immediately, and everything just worked. This really was nice for a change. I didn't have to do any custom bindings or hotkeys or anything. It all just worked. And as much as I like tinkering with my retro doodads, what I like even more is not tinkering. Just plugging it in and playing the game. That's what I really want to be doing. Let's be real here. And you see how there's a trackball? That totally worked right out of the box. No setup needed other than selecting the ball as the controller in the games that use it. Literally a single setting in RetroArch. Just swap the controller style and those games will just work. I played a lot of Golden Tee back in college. I used to run tournaments of this at the pub, and playing it like this is the first time that I've been able to properly emulate that experience. The input quality is it's perfect. It's just like I remember this game. I was expecting it to be more annoying to set up than it was. It just worked instantly. And I guess I should touch on the soundbar. This is a pre-order bonus, and it is a really great soundbar. I was expecting some crummy cheap things since this is a freebie, but no, it's really, really good. Great build quality, it looks awesome, good controls on it, it works via USB or Bluetooth, and the sound is amazing. It's deep and bassy, super loud, really impressive sound coming from this thing. My only gripe is that you have to plug it in directly to the PC. I kind of wish it plugged into the Xarcade and I could put it up here because it looks so nice there. You'd have to use a USB extension cable if you wanted to do that though. And since this is a PC, I have this wireless mouse and keyboard up here to make using the PC easy. I think eventually if I leave this as a permanent setup, I'll just have this PC boot directly into RetroBat, and ideally I won't need the mouse and keyboard all the time. And there is one more very important function on here that I'm not going to show you. This thing does VR stuff. It's all over their marketing. This thing is like made for VR. I do have a MetaQuest 2 and I've barely touched it. I considered getting it going and trying to find a way to capture gameplay, but I couldn't be bothered. I honestly don't care about VR stuff. I'm sorry. But if you care about VR stuff, especially VR arcade games, this thing is like made for that stuff. Heck, it even has holsters up top for your VR controllers and little handles that come out for you to hang VR stuff. And it comes with some special VR software that you can download and play, like virtual arcade games. You can like design your own virtual arcade room, and when you're playing games on the virtual arcades, the controls here are like the controls in your VR game. So in theory, it'll feel like you're playing your virtual arcade with actual controls. It's a kind of a neat idea, I guess. I just don't care about that stuff. Because on its own, playing on this gorgeous, amazing, high-quality arcade is all I would ever want to do. I love gaming on this thing. I love my arcade machine that I made, but there's something to be said about playing these games on a giant TV with booming sound on a super high-quality stick. Even PC games are amazing on here. I was playing some of my favorite arcade-style indie games, and it was like a next-level way to play this stuff. The hardware is amazing. No complaints from me, really. So if you're looking for a way to get your own home arcade setup going, something that looks great, solid build, but also something that isn't permanent, you know, something you can slide off to the side and tuck it away when you're not using it, something with all the bells and whistles that you could want in an arcade stick, then I can't recommend this one enough. With one caveat, this thing isn't cheap. It's $500. For that price, you get the 2-player arcade stick with the trackball, the super high quality stand, and the soundbar if you order it during the pre-order period. So whether or not that's worth it, I guess is gonna depend on your needs. It's hard to find good arcade hardware on the cheap, kind of a boutique industry, you know? Heck, this is cheaper than one of those one-up arcade machines, and I'd want to play games on this 1,000 times more than one of those dinky things. So if you have like a low-power computer to run the emulation and a TV, and all you need is the arcade stick, this will do the job for you. And if you don't need that, then you shouldn't get this. And if that's the case, I honestly don't know why you made it all the way to the end of the video, but you did. Here you are, and here I am. We're here together, so we might as well make the most of it. Let's play some games. What do you say?